Hello! I'm sitting in this uncomfortable, cold, dark, and scary room to talk to you about the importance of setting. As you can see, setting can have a big effect on the mood that a story or a scene can provide. For example, right now the mood is cold, strange, and uncomfortable. I think I'd rather sit somewhere warmer and more comfortable, so let's make a quick scene change. Ah, that's better. Isn't this a much more comfortable setting? With a soft sofa, a beautiful piece of art, a warm blanket, a cup of tea. I just feel much more comfortable in this setting. And contrast that with where I was before, with the wires coming down from the ceiling and the harsh, stark lighting and the strange objects behind me. It turns out that setting can make a big difference in the kind of mood that you have. And it's the same thing in a book. Authors often use setting to give you a certain impression, and they can describe that setting and have a big effect on you as a reader. So, when I'm reading The Bad Beginning today, I want you to be paying attention to how Lemony Snicket, the author, uses setting to give you an impression about a character. Let's get reading.
Her feet touching the side of the stone tower, and her hands grasping the rope, Violet closed her eyes and began to climb. Never daring to look around, she pulled herself up the tower, hand over hand, all the time keeping in mind her promise to her parents and the horrible things Count Olaf would do if his villainous plan worked. The evening wind blew harder and harder as she climbed higher and higher, and several times Violet had to stop climbing as the rope moved in the wind. She was certain that at any moment the cloth would tear or the hook would slip, and Violet would be sent tumbling to her death. But thanks to her adroit inventing skills, the word adroit here means skillful, everything worked the way it was supposed to work, and suddenly Violet found herself feeling a piece of metal instead of cloth rope. She opened her eyes and saw her sister Sunny, who was looking at her frantically and trying to say something past the strip of tape. Violet had arrived at the top of the tower, right at the window where Sunny was tied. The eldest Baudelaire orphan was about to grab her sister's cage and begin her descent when she saw something that made her stop. It was the spidery end of the grappling hook, which after several attempts had finally stuck onto something on the tower. Violet had guessed, during her climb, that it had found some notch in the stone, or part of a window, or perhaps a piece of furniture inside the tower room and stuck there. But that wasn't what the hook had stuck on. Violet's grappling hook had stuck on another hook. It was one of the hooks on the hook-handed man. And his other hook, Violet saw, was glinting in the moonlight as it reached right for her. "How pleasant that you could join us," the hook-handed man said in a sickly sweet voice. Violet immediately tried to scurry back down the rope, but Count Olaf's assistant was too quick for her. In one movement, he hoisted her into the tower room, and with a flick of his hook, sent her rescue device clanging to the ground. Now, Violet was as trapped as her sister. "I'm so glad you're here," the hook-handed man said. "I was just thinking about how much I wanted to see your pretty face. Have a seat." "What are you going to do with me?" Violet asked. "I said, have a seat." The hook-handed man snarled and pushed her into a chair. Violet looked around the dim and messy room. "I am certain that, over the course of your own life, you have noticed that people's rooms reflect their personalities. In my room, for instance, I have gathered a collection of objects that are important to me, including a dusty accordion on which I can play a few sad songs, a large bundle of notes on the activities of the Baudelaire orphans, and a blurry photograph taken a very long time ago of a woman whose name is Beatrice. These are items that are very precious and dear to me. The tower room held objects that were very dear and precious to Count Olaf, and they were terrible things. There were scraps of paper on which he had written his evil ideas in an illegible scrawl, lying in messy piles on top of the copy of nuptial law he had taken away from Klaus. There were a few chairs and a handful of candles, which were giving off flickering shadows. Littered all over the floor were empty wine bottles and dirty dishes. But most of all were drawings and paintings and carvings of eyes, big and small, all over the room. There were eyes painted on the ceiling and scratched into the grimy wooden floors. There were eyes scrawled along the windowsill, and one big eye painted on the knob of the door that led to the stairs. It was a terrible place.
Wow, the author really did a great job of describing that setting. Not only did I feel worried for Violet because of the hook-handed man, I actually felt worried because of the setting. It was so frightening. If I were to summarize the description of that setting, I would say it was foreboding or menacing. Anyways, what do I want you to do? Well, during your 30 minutes of independent reading, I want you to pay attention to how the author of your book describes setting. Then, the answer that I want you to put at the bottom of this post is as follows. How does the author describe setting in your book, and what impression or feeling does it give you? Looking forward to seeing your answers? Happy reading? I'm going to sit here and enjoy the beautiful setting that I found myself in. The only thing it's missing is some music. Ah, that's better. Happy reading!